Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and welcome back to our Commander Budget series. We continue our look at some of the best budget cards in the format. While red isn't the best color in Commander, it does offer both solid creatures and spells on a low budget. If you missed white, blue, or black, check the playlist in the description or annotations at the end of the video. Let's see what the most destructive color has to offer. Zealous Conscripts is one of the best cards on this list, and I anticipate it won't be budget enough to be on here for much longer. A one-shot threaten effect on a creature is strong, but even better when you can take any permanent in play. You can untap and reuse cards such as Birthing Pod or Gaia's Cradle. Use it as a removal spell with a sack outlet or just as a combo piece to outright win the game. This card has plenty of flexibility for the 50-cent price tag. Red is naturally strong at burning stuff and breaking things. In terms of doing it well, Flametongue Kavu is high on the list. A very powerful creature during its time in Standard, it isn't nearly as good in Commander, but is still a solid removal spell. 4 damage is enough to pick off many of the faster commanders, and it also is a 4/2, allowing the Kavu to possibly get in for damage. Its enter the battlefield effect is easy to abuse. You likely won't stop the heavy hitters with Flametongue, but it is still a good early removal option. If you hate people who play non-basic lands, Ruination is your best friend. For 4 mana, you can destroy all the non-basics in play. Depending on who you're playing, this can range from solid to game-breaking. Almost everybody's on multiple colors or some quantity of non-basic lands, so this is a pretty strong hate card that can occasionally be a one-sided Armageddon. Just remember to not pack too many non-basics of your own. Vandal Blast is one of the more versatile hate spells printed recently and is a strong include in Commander. For 1 red mana, you can pick off a Sol Ring or a combo piece. Later in the game, you can break everyone else's artifacts for as little as 5 mana. Almost everyone is on some sort of artifact acceleration, lightning greaves, or a combo piece like Ashnod's Altar, Helm of Obedience, or Cloudstone Curio. Vandal Blast deals with all of them at the same time. Red offers a lot of sweepers that range from dealing damage to destroying all the permanents in play. In terms of wrath effects, Blasphemous Act is at the top of the list. At first you think, how am I going to get to 9 mana before I'm dead? Then you realize that it costs 1 mana less for each creature in play. All of a sudden this card seems extremely easy to cast at 4 mana or less. Creatures are always going to glut the board in Commander, so it's nice to know that this card won't tap you out. Sure, it doesn't do anything against creatures with 14 or more toughness, but how often does that happen? Dealing 13 to everything for red mana still seems good. Repercussion is an enchantment that is sure to wreak some havoc when it resolves. Whenever a creature is dealt damage, Repercussion deals that much damage to its controller. The card makes combat chaotic and also turns your burn spells into Searing Blaze. Maybe you should try with Blasphemous Act. Nonetheless, it's a good card to put pressure on your opponents and potentially deal tons of damage fast. Naturally, you want to play as few creatures as possible to maximize the effect. It's a good alternate win condition if you can build around it. Vicious Shadows is a big expensive enchantment that if it resolves and does something, it will win you the game. Whenever a creature dies, you can deal damage to a player equal to the number of cards in their hand. The best part about this card is that it triggers on any creature dying and not just yours. Your opponents will do whatever they can to play around this card as it will likely kill them. It's a really good card for politics and can dictate how the rest of the table plays. It's another 50-cent card that can fit in a lot of decks, so it won't be too hard to get. Hoarding Dragon is an interesting card that offers red a rarely seen tutor effect. When it comes into play, you can search for an artifact and exile it. When the dragon dies, you get the artifact in your hand. As long as you can reliably kill the dragon, it's a solid tutor effect on a decent-sized body. Red is desperately low on tutors and draw effects, so the dragon is a cheap, viable option for those relying on artifacts to win. Anger doesn't look like much when you read it, but it is a cheap and surprisingly effective haste enabler as long as you can put it in your graveyard. However, you should probably never play it unless it's specifically to put it in the graveyard. It's a 2/2 with haste, so it's not like it's doing much on the board. Unlike other haste effects, it sits safely in your graveyard and only requires a mountain to stay active. If you're looking to play Devotion or just heavy red in general, Fanatic of Mogis can potentially do tons of damage. It has the same stats as Flametongue Kavu, but when it comes into play, it deals damage to each opponent equal to your Devotion or red. The right deck will have no trouble dealing 15 or more damage with this card, making it a potentially busted win condition. It's an uncommon from Theros, so it's easy to find and jam into mono red. Krenko Mob Boss is the perfect commander if you love goblins, attacking, or putting a billion creatures into play. A 3/3 for 4 isn't impressive, but the ability is nuts if you can get enough goblins in play. 2 or 3 activations is enough to crush all your opponents in one attack. If you have a ton of goblins, ways to activate Krenko multiple times, and ways to kill your opponent, this deck practically builds itself. Ogre Battle Driver is less than $1 and offers a lot of destructive potential for a deck that can fire out loads of creatures. A 3/3 for 4, it gives other creatures you control +2/+0 and haste when they enter the battlefield. There are a few cards I can think of that could benefit from that ability. Avenger of Zendikar, Hornet Queen, Chancellor of the Forge. Aside from the inevitable alpha strikes this will cause, giving a bigger threat haste and more power is pretty strong. It's good as both an Anthem effect and a haste enabler. Inferno Titan is one of the bigger and more threatening creatures on this list, and for good reason. A 6/6 for 6 mana and fire breathing is strong. Dealing 3 damage when it hits play or attacks even better. Being able to divide the damage, that's pretty outrageous for any creature. You aren't going to find many big creatures for $1 as effective as this one. It's the perfect creature to top out your curve and has plenty of synergy to boot. Disclaimer, it'd be impossible for us to cover every single good budget red card for Commander, but these were some of our personal favorites. If you have any that you love to play, let us know in the comments. If you missed the previous installments of this budget series, boom, there they are. Enjoy spending very little money to do hilarious things. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source, I'm Wedge, thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.